Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting premiere podcast. Damn you, Hollywood! And here's your host, Cruella de Winfree. Yay!
That wounds me, sir.
You know, I was gonna sing you the song, but just put your name in there like I normally do.
I'm really glad you didn't.
Yeah, I considering how my last, my most recent efforts to sing you in are not met with the laughter that I intended. I'm like, all right, maybe I just cut right to the chase.
You did the singing for so long. You just kind of need to take a break and come back to it with fresh eyes in a little bit. I'm sure you will find inspiration again soon, and it'll be back to working.
Maybe I'll start singing you in using 80s hair metal. I'll sing you into like Sister Christian or something. Sister Winfree, you're the only one.
Okay, I have to stop you there.
Yes, sir.
You don't know this about my people?
What? The Martians?
No.
People stuck in Utah?
No. But members of my faith, we call each other brother and sister last name.
Ah. Oh, God. That's not what I meant at all.
So you literally were just singing to, like, my mother.
Fantastic.
All right, I'm Robert Winfree. Tonight this is Damn You Hollywood. Tonight we're talking about Cruella de Vil. Cruella, the live-action adaptation / prequel / retelling / whatever the heck they want to throw in there to try and categorize this. Starring Emma Stone and Emma Thompson, who we will be referring to as the Emmas, I think, collectively for the rest of this show. Joining us, per usual, the mother of corgis, Alexis Hejna. Alexis, how you doing?
Yeah, you know what, Mark? If you're not going to take it, I'll go ahead and go. Robert Winfree. Yes, Robert Winfree. He hates all these movies. He wants to burn down Disney.
Okay. On occasion. Before we get into this movie, there's something I want to say. Because I want to say at least one thing positive on this show. Mark will say positive things. I know he will because he's told me he will. Alexis is usually a positive person, so I'm sure she will say some positive things. I want to make sure I get at least one positive thing out into the world for this particular show. So let me start with it. Let me just do this. We've gone over the numbers recently for how the network has been doing, and it turns out that you all, listeners, you kind of collectively made May 2021 the best year for the Radulich and Broadcasting Network since we moved to Spreaker.
Best month.
That's what I said. Oh, I don't know if I misspoke. Best month since we moved to Spreaker. We do this because we have fun. This is what passes for my social circle in life at the moment. We get together, we talk, we laugh, we cry, we curse. We come to consensus, or at the worst case scenario, agree to disagree about certain things. We cover a wide variety of topics, and you all have continued to support our work. So I just wanted to, before we get into this show in particular, I wanted to say thank you from all of us to all of you for listening, for your likes, your comments, your subscriptions on whatever platform podcast you happen to use, any ratings, again, any thumbs up, any written reviews, any individual comments per episode, and any sharing that you have done of our work around your friends, be that in real person or digitally. We have enjoyed a little bit of growth over the last few months, and May was our best month, again, in probably since we were on Blog Talk, and we had before Blog Talk really kind of started parsing down how it counted listens. In probably a few years, you've given us our best month ever. So thank you. Heartfelt, no snark, no sarcasm, no qualifiers. From all of us to all of you, thank you very much. We hope to continue annoying you in the future. With that out of the way, let's talk this turkey. Okay. Mark, I'm going to do my usual thing here before we get into the plot synopsis. We all knew this was going to be on the calendar. It's been kicked around a little bit in terms of release date. What in the... I have to ask this way, because I don't think any of us really knew what we were getting into. What did you expect? Just out of curiosity, did you have any expectations for this movie?
Expectations? No. I hoped it would be better than Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. I hoped it would be better than Maleficent, quite frankly, because, I put that up to coincide with the release of Cruella, and when we first... That was from the first year we were actually doing these reviews.
That was one of our very first ones. I just kind of moderated you and Pat talking about it.
And, when we talked about how stupid the movie was and how inconsistent it was and how Maleficent didn't really... I think that was your major gripe with it, was like Maleficent doesn't really need a backstory. She was an embodiment of evil in this fairy tale. It wasn't necessary to understand how she got to be angry and resentful and, and wanting to hurt this child. She just did. And I remember that in that discussion, and I think it rings true today, about sometimes some characters just need to be evil.
I think I said similar when you asked why I was ducking out of the Maleficent 2 review. Because I remember you called me and you were just kind of surprised. You weren't upset, but you were just like, really? You don't want to discuss this? And I was like, no, and I got a reason. So, yeah, I think I said something similar to you.
So, yeah, it's like there are some characters where kind of... I'm going to talk about this now. And I was going to save it for my part of the review, but I'm going to discuss this now. George Lucas wanting to tell the sort of epic story about how a knight rose to great... How a farm boy rises to great heights, becomes a knight, fights evil, is seduced by power, falls from grace, and becomes the universe's greatest monster, but then is redeemed by his son. I understand what George Lucas was doing and why he was doing it. He did it poorly, and in such a way that it unfortunately has affected the film industry in ways I don't think anyone counted on or definitely didn't want. I think he has made I think George Lucas in many ways has made the film industry worse by doing the prequels the way that he did them. But
Wait, hold on. I need to hear you say just the first part of that sentence one more time, just for my own satisfaction.
That George Lucas has made the film industry worse?
Thank you. God, that sounds good.
Put it on a t-shirt, Mindy.
Curiosity, I would say, because this has come up before when we talk about this trend of the backstory of the villains. Have either of you seen Wicked on stage?
Yes.
No.
Okay, I saw it right actually before the world ended, as I tend to call it. It was my mother's birthday gift. I got her tickets to go see it in St. Louis shortly after Christmas.
Yeah, I saw it in New York City on Broadway. I read the book when it came out. Look, if you have an interesting story to tell, or you have a perspective, or you're making a comment on something through the guise of this backstory of this villain, there's nothing to say that you can't do that. A good story is a good story. The problem is we have lost, I think, the ability to understand the difference between telling a good story and just telling a story. And so I feel like even though George Lucas had a goal in mind with this rise and fall of this knight who was redeemed by his son, which seems like a good idea at the time when I say it that way, and then you watch what he does, and he's like, oof, okay, stop telling stories, sir. Just focus on, I don't know, sound and special effects.
Go focus on your ranch. Go play with your toys.
But what's come out of that is this trend of like looking at every single villain and going, well, we need to understand why they're bad. We need to understand why this person's bad. And so to focus on specifically Cruella, much like Maleficent, you don't need to understand why the evil wizard is evil. She just is, and she wants revenge on this family for whatever the reasons are. It doesn't really matter. But even if you say, but it does matter, we want to know what possessed her to take revenge on this family, okay, well then you have to then tell a good story about how we got to that point, and that's where Maleficent falls down. The problem with Cruella is you have an even less interesting villain in Cruella de Vil than you have in Maleficent.
Boy, ain't that the truth.
Cruella de Vil is the rich lady who thought it would be a good idea to have a dogskin coat. That's it.
Yeah, Cruella's a memorable villain, but when you ask people for their top 10 Disney villains of all time, if she makes the list, she's usually pretty much the bottom rung. Yeah, people say she's memorable, but when you actually hold her up to the likes of Scar, Maleficent, Shere Khan, Jafar, Lady Tremaine, she's just not as interesting a character.
No, she's not. She's the rich lady who wanted a dogskin coat. That's it. That's all there is to this character. You know, it was funny. I was listening to the critically acclaimed guys talk about the original animated 101 Dalmatians, and well, Whitney Seibel kept saying, well, 101 Dalmatians is about dogs who watch television. And I laughed at that, but it's like if you go back and you watch the cartoon, that's kind of it. It's dogs kind of hanging out with their owners, and sort of the dramatic tension is, oh no, suddenly 100 puppies.
The dramatic tension is, oh no, my children have been kidnapped.
Yeah, right. You know, oh God, we have a lot of dogs now. And then a lady comes along, she was like, you have so many dogs. They would make a wonderful coat. Oh, we have to get the dogs back. And that's it. That's the movie. And so going to this live-action Cruella, and I saw, like, the trailer for it and everything, I mean, there's a part of me that's like, well, I guess we're going to do this with everybody now, and it doesn't seem to matter how or why. Okay, I kind of accept that. We talked before the show started about, like, you know, I'm usually, like, the capitalist apologist, and I'm willing to accept. I mean, we had a conversation earlier, and we don't need to get into a tangent about this, about, you know, I like stupid entertainment. So I kind of accept. So it's like, so I have a general statement like that. I like stupid entertainment. Well, here's stupid entertainment. I can't complain. I cannot complain if they're giving me what I said was okay to start with. But then I think you are obliged as filmmakers, as artists, to, if you're going to do this, and this goes immediately into my criticism of this film, one of my criticisms, you decided to set this thing in transitionary punk rock London of the 70s. And you do nothing with that. You decide to make it about fashion, and you kind of do nothing with that, other than the aesthetic. And you decide it's going to be a revenge tale. And it's the most stupidest revenge tale I've ever seen. And so you did something that didn't need to be done with a character that isn't interesting, and then with everything that you did to make this film a reality, it's as empty and as shallow as anything I've ever seen. And that's just disappointing. And I didn't even know what I wanted from the movie, to answer your question from an hour ago. What did I expect? Nothing. How did I get less than nothing? What the fuck?
Wow, I asked Mark a simple question and he self-destructed on his own. I'm proud of that.
Well, I mean,
who would have thought that this would be the movie of 2021 that would officially kill Mark? I did not know that.
Well, look, I'm going to say a lot of positive things about this movie because I think in all objective fairness there were positive things. This wasn't incompetent, shot out of focus. You know, there weren't mislined readings. These are competent actors. There are things happening in the movie that are good and enjoyable. And not to have Robert scream, you know, for the 50th fucking time, stop telling me about how your kids like movies. Like, but my kids really did have the time of their life watching this, and it's just a reminder that, you know, 3 people who study and talk about film are not who this was meant for by any stretch of the imagination. This was meant for people with the brain level of a 7 and a 10-year-old. or think about film that way.
I say this movie was made for diehard fans of the original or the '96 Glenn Close film, or those who are just obsessed with fashion. Because I swear to God, watching this movie, I was making mental notes of, okay, so which dress am I likely going to see at Cincinnati Comic Expo?
The red one.
The answer is yes.
Well, I think you'll see the red one the most because I think the garbage one is going to be too complicated for people to do. Also,
someone's going to do it and enter the cosplay contest. I'm putting
100%.
If they don't have to walk around in it, sure. But I mean, could you imagine having to carry that thing around a con?
Oh, honey, you have no idea how many cons I see where they have what I affectionately call the cosplay mules. There was one guy who actually had a functioning cardboard Voltron costume that he was pretty much shuffling along in, and he had two people running along his side. Anytime he wanted to stop and look at something, they would hold it up to him. Anytime he had a question for a vendor, they would ask him, and they were carrying all of his stuff. This is very common for people with elaborate cosplays. They will have either friends or family carry all their crap. And if you honestly think there's not going to be at least one person in the garbage dress who has bribed her friends with, I don't know what, probably with liquor, to help pull that gigantic ass train around.
Thank
so
you.
that
Train. I couldn't remember the term for it.
Yeah. Then you are delusional.
No, here's what I was going to say. I'm sure there'll be at least one. If there are, I'll tell you this, Alexis, and we don't need to get into a protracted, elongated, what are we going to make Jason Teasley do if The Miz shows up as, or doesn't show up as Johnny Cage conversation. But I will say this to you. I will owe you something to be determined at a later date if there are more garbage dresses than red dresses. Because my contention is there will be more red dresses than garbage dresses.
Personally, I put my money on the checkerboard dress with the faux Dalmatians coat.
Yeah, maybe. It's not one I thought of. The red one is the one that stood out to me, especially because of the scene that it's in. Let me quick say this, and then we can move on. You can do, we can actually get into the movie review. There are positive things to say about it. There are certainly a lot of negative things to say about it, but I think and I don't want this to turn into a Minions Inside Out thing, but what I think sort of brings me back down to earth and sort of grounds me about this and reminds me that the greater universe will maybe listen to our review of this thing and find the conversation interesting or entertaining, at least that's my hope, but will categorically not agree with it, is the fact that this has been compared to Joker. Now, if you'll remember, I walked out of Joker, and again, I am an empathetic person. I work in the mental health field. That movie affected me in ways I did not expect, didn't particularly enjoy, but I recognized the necessity of the film, the point that it was trying to make, the editorializing that it was doing, and when it was over, I don't mind if a film makes me feel bad. Yeah. I think film should make you feel something, and bad is a thing that you can feel. It is a legitimate feeling. It is a part of the human experience. So when I left the theater and kind of ran to my car and bawled my eyes out because of how much Joker affected me and how much it made me think and feel about things, that I would describe as a good experience. It is good to experience your feelings, the full breadth of them. I think as human beings, we tend to run away from our negative feelings. And I'm like, no, it's healthy to feel these things. I say to my son all the time, like, if you feel the need to cry about something, then cry about it. It's part of, I say to my patients all the time, you're in a terrible place with terrible things happening to you. It's okay to feel terrible. It's normal. It's when you don't feel that way that's a problem. But I recognize also that while people are, and then maybe erroneously, or maybe not erroneously, comparing Cruella to Joker, I can see why people are like, I prefer Cruella. Because Cruella makes you feel none of those things. Oh, boy. Cruella...
No, Mark.
Oh, you made you feel anger.
This movie made me feel very bad.
Yeah, well, no, anger at the film industry and life, the universe, and everything is a whole other subject. But I mean, inherently, because the movie has, like I said, no point of view or anything like that. It's just things happening in a place with stuff on the screen. So, but the comparison between the Joker character and the Cruella character is, look, people affected by society, forced into doing things that are bad because of the things that happen to them. Only Cruella's a fun romp with a fun soundtrack that makes you feel good and has a good time and is pretty to look at. And Joker is depressing and angry and doesn't make you have good feelings. And so 97% of the audience score, Cruella. Less than 97% of the audience score, Joker. And I shake my head and I say, our dumb culture, and I go, this is why we can't have anything nice. And then I take a deep breath and go, but we already knew that. Your witness, sir.
Now, for the record, anyone making that comparison between these two movies is an idiot.
Okay, well,
just throw it.
The universe then is an idiot because that's where I'm getting it from.
The universe is an unfeeling, unthinking void.
Okay, it's Twitter then.
What you're talking about is, again, this like loose collective manifestation of people who feel like commenting on something on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And to the shock of no one, that's full of idiots.
Fair enough.
Anyone, look, I'm not saying you have to like Joker more than you like Cruella. I don't care what you like. I am saying that if you're comparing these two films, you're an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
That's my point there.
You know how far back that comparison goes, though? Well, the first few still shots of Emma Stone with the makeup on and everything, and people were immediately comparing it to Joker.
A woman with a wacky aesthetic in a movie that's drenched in music that we've licensed about a character who's a villain, and we're getting a backstory for it. It must be like Joker. You superficial, useless hacks.
And we thank you for listening to our podcast and making May the best month ever.
Look, I trust anyone that chooses to listen to our show not to have come into this going, I wonder what they'll say about how much Joker is like Cruella, and what a good comparison this is. I have a slightly greater degree of respect for those who choose to listen to our show than that.
I bet the guys who hate everything they've ever reviewed will love Cruella. I can't wait to listen to this. It's like
Alexis,
that's like waiting for a Jim Cornette podcast to start off with, let me tell you about the latest Kenny Omega match. I loved it.
Alexis, same question to you as far as expectations go. You're a bit of a Disney nerd, kind of like me. So what did you think about the decision to make this movie? And again, what were your just kind of expectations going into it, if any?
Yeah, I had no expectations. Like I mentioned, I was not a fan of the Maleficent live-action films. I did not feel that this character really needed a backstory. Not to mention, I keep feeling like Disney is missing the point of Wicked. I mean, let's be honest, it is abundantly clear that the Disney execs are kicking themselves from day one that they didn't get the rights to that.
Yeah.
All the way going to hiring Idina Menzel for Frozen. It's just, wow, you guys could not be more obvious.
All right.
Yeah, no, I did not have any expectations going into this. I genuinely wasn't, dying to see it. I like Emma Stone. I love Emma Thompson. Fun little story here, actually. I've mentioned to you guys before that I worked in LA for a bit when I was interning for an animation company out there. Well, I got to work on a independent film set for a bit, and I remember driving around with the location director, and I said, so just ballparking here, who's the nicest big-name actor you've worked with? And he gave two, Michael Caine and Emma Thompson. He said they were the sweetest, most considerate people he had ever worked with. And I'm not going to lie, I loved seeing Emma Thompson as the villain, knowing in the back of my head that she is playing this crazy level narcissist, and she is just probably the sweetest, kindest woman in Hollywood.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I will absolutely buy that about both of those people. All right, so the plot for this we're introduced to the character of Estella Miller, a troubled but creative child who bucks the system and the patriarchy at every possible opportunity. This lack of ability to fit in leads to her being expelled/removed from the school she's in. She and her mother try to move into London. Along the way, they stop off at this wealthy friend of her mother's. Circumstances arise. The mother dies after being drop-kicked by a Dalmatian over a cliff. I'm not joking about the drop-kicking part. This wasn't even a dog tackling someone and then following them down to the ground. This was literally using them as a springboard to bounce off.
It's like that scene from Resident Evil with the dogs and Alice.
Yeah, it really is. Might have been the same framing, the same wire framing that they just copied over. Cruella then runs away, thinking that she caused this because the Dalmatians were chasing her first. She winds up in London. She meets up with a couple of ne'er-do-wells, Horace and Jasper. They become thieves together. They spend 10 years together. She dyes her hair red, but Jasper tries to get her to go a little bit more on the straight and narrow. He says, you're too good a person. You're too talented. What are you doing wasting your lives with bums like us? And she goes, yes, you're right. You're terrible. And then he goes, wait, but I didn't mean that I'm terrible. No, you moron. Gets her a job at a high-end department store, where she's again kept down by the man. But in a drunken fit, she creates a window display that catches the eye of the high-end fashion empress, totally not ripping off Helen Mirren in The Devil Wears Prada, Emma Thompson as the Baroness, who hires her on as one of her assistants in the fashion world.
That's Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep, thank you, not Helen Mirren. Yeah, why did I confuse them? Because Helen Mirren's awesome, and I hate Meryl Streep, that's why.
Pretty sure Glenn Close, Henry Mirren, and the other person are the same person.
I've never seen them in the same place at the same time. That's all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes to work for the Baroness. Turns out the Baroness has the family heirloom locket necklace that her mother had because she dropped it at the estate. She tries to get it back, organizes a heist job. This goes poorly. But part of what she does for that is create a distraction where she removes the red hair dye that she's been rocking for 10 plus years and goes back to her natural split down the middle black and white. She crashes a ball. She again makes a big scene. She winds up remembering that, no, it was you who killed my mother. She's the author of all my pain, don't you understand? Suddenly Baroness. I don't know. Do we have another one I can throw in there? Anyway.
She finds out that it turns out that the Baroness has a dog whistle, and she has an epiphany where she remembers hearing that dog whistle when her mother fell. So she knows that the Baroness actually called the Dalmatians. They weren't chasing her. Actually, if you go back and listen to the music during that,
you can hear it.
Falls. Yeah, you can hear the dog whistle in the music.
It's there. It's absolutely there. So now she decides to get even greater revenge. She spends 40 minutes in montage sequences upstaging the Baroness at various locations with her new persona, Cruella. This all kind of culminates with an impromptu fashion show she puts on after wrecking that of the Baroness with just the dumbest plot ever. I hate that. I hated that so much. And I love heist movies and television shows. But this, that was so dumb.
Okay, I gotta ask, because I have an interjection here. What about it was so dumb?
Acquiring that many moth pupas, shipping them safely using 1970s technology from one climate to another, releasing an invasive species into downtown London in the 70s, finding said numbers of moth pupas after transporting them safely that are all going to hatch in the same 24-hour window, and then that these same moths are actually the kind that will in fact devour the adjacent clothing. This is contrivance on an absurd level held together like most of this movie by a sincere desire that the audience is perpetually distracted by actual shiny things on screen or the auditory equivalent thereof with "Hey, I know that song." The Baroness, however, is able to track her down, tries to murder her via arson. She is saved by Mark Strong, who is the butler of the Baroness. After being saved, Mark Strong dumps a boatload of exposition on her. It turns out that the Baroness is your real mother. No, you don't understand. The riffraff you grew up with never told you what happened to your mother, did they? They told me enough. They told me the Baroness killed her. No, no, the Baroness is your mother. And she goes, no. And
so what I told you is true, Cruella, from a certain point of view.
Yes, the biological one.
At which point, Cruella goes back to the swamp from when she came in order to finish her training. Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're not wrong. She plans one last job with her ne'er-do-well friends. They crash this big party that the Baroness is having. She shows up in the Estella garb, convinces everyone to watch the Baroness push her over a cliff, where she uses a parachute that she had made into a skirt to safely land against a green screen with waves on it. I hate that sequence so much, it's painful. She then shows back up as Cruella, having been willed all of the fortune, title, and whatnot by Estella, and turns out that the Dalmatians that killed her mother, one of them... I don't know how you get biology so wrong that you mistake a female dog for a male dog. I really, really don't. But apparently one of the Dalmatians is now pregnant. She sends two of the Dalmatian puppies, Pongo and Perdita, to some ancillary characters.
Yes, one of them goes to a family living on a farm to raise. The other one goes with a senator on Alderaan.
Yes. More or less. And please come see the sequel. I hate this movie so much.
Flames on the side of your face, heaving, breathing. Seething.
I wanted to spit at the movie screen.
I don't want you to go to jail. Please don't do criminal mischief or disorderly conduct.
I didn't. I said I wanted to.
That's my point. Like, don't give in to hate, Luke. Alexis.
Mark makes him want to go on a killing spree. Robert Winfree.
Okay, you know your assignment for our review of A Quiet Place Part 2 tomorrow is to have that at least a full verse and chorus mapped out now?
Not that good of a songwriter.
Neither's Roger, but there we are.
All right, Alexis, go
Mark,
no.
You and I talked plenty. Alexis.
Yeah, I having known how most of these podcasts go, I have used up my allotment. So, Alexis, your turn.
You actually want to let me talk after hearing my singing, which apparently is so bad it can be comparable to that damn dog whistle.
All right, so let's talk about the money. So just go ahead. Go ahead.
I walked out of that movie. I went straight to the grocery store to get stuff for dinner, and as I was waiting for some food to get prepped at the deli, the girl who was there, she asked. I mentioned casually, I just come from the movies. Told her I saw Cruella, and she goes, "What did you think of it?" And I said, "Here's the thing. On paper, I can't really think of a lot that's wrong with this movie. The actors are all good. You know, Emma Stone and Emma Thompson are great. The aesthetic is fun. The costumes are great. And I think we can all agree that the soundtrack is amazing."
Well, that's a strong statement, madam. You are on this podcast with Robert Winfree.
Well, tell him to sit down.
I believe the phrase you're looking for.
I am seated, and I am happy to let you say your piece. Mark's the one who interrupted you.
Let me help you. Most of the known universe can agree that the music in this movie is fantastic. Some will disagree. Go on.
Fair enough. But I walked out just kind of thinking to myself, I don't know why this movie exists. it didn't feel like a movie that needed to be there. It didn't feel like something that the people were clamoring for, or a movie with a real message to it or anything. It was just there. And frankly, it was kind of dull. I mean, again, there were some good elements to it, but this is a movie that I just sort of walked away from going, okay, saw it, you know, I am glad that I paid the matinee ticket, because I'm sure as hell glad I didn't pay $30 for premium access for this. But after I just walked away going, okay, that's done. I want to go get stuff for dinner. Bye. You know, this film does not leave enough of a strong impact, which is definitely what they were going for with their aesthetic. But even that, they don't utilize enough to really make you want to, you know, enjoy it more. Hell, if they wanted to have more of a, you know, a message, they could have done more with Cruella's fashions to make them a bit more, what's the word? To have the fashions have more of a message aimed at the Baroness. That there was more subtext in what she was doing other than just revenge.
Can I piggyback on that?
I'm sorry?
Can I piggyback on that point? If your film is set in the tumultuous sort of counterculture revolution happening in 70s London, you have to then go about explaining what was going on in that time period among those people, that a counterculture was even necessary. And why was the clothing of that counterculture such a huge part of it? What was the clothing saying about those people? And what were those people in turn saying about 70s London? Like, there's a really rich historical period happening in that time that is coming out of the 50s and 60s, and frankly, like World War II, in just England alone, that leads to everything happening in that time period. And they missed an opportunity to, with the fashion and the music and the characters and what they were doing in that, like, what, you know, why did those characters have to be thieves, being orphans as they were? You know, you missed an opportunity to talk about that time period that you set this movie in. And there seems to have been no thought about it, except for, well, we wanted to set it in this period because she has to be old by this other period. It also gives us an excuse to have fun costumes, which we're going to point at from about 100 yards away.
I think there were two dresses in particular that caught me. We keep bringing up the red dress and the garbage dress. The red dress was formerly a Baroness dress style. It was a couple of years old. She got it in a secondhand shop. But she says, I fixed it. But they do not focus on that dress long enough for you to go, well, what did she do with it? I mean, I think she cut the neckline off to make it strapless, but, you know, other than that, I can't really tell what the difference is between those two dresses.
Right. Shouldn't her and the character in the shop have been talking about the dress and what made it good, what made it bad, and what could have made it better, and then show you said thing?
But Mark, then the writers would have had to have some inkling of expertise about the material they're writing, and couldn't, instead of just drowning us in bits and pieces of aesthetic and buzzwords to make you think that they actually did research on this topic.
The dude from Project Runway has worked with Disney before. They could have called him to consult.
I didn't say there weren't other things you could do. I'm saying they're lazy and stupid.
The other one, the garbage dress, I thought they missed a great opportunity by having a dress that was pretty much made of, that was partially at least made of trash. They could have done this whole thing about maybe the Baroness was bragging about the high-end fabrics that she was importing in for her line. And then Cruella shows up and she's like, I literally just pulled this out of the garbage.
Right.
You know, I thought there could have been a really fun message there. Hell, the big fashion show at the fountain, I couldn't even really see the dresses.
Yeah, and they were running across the runway, right?
Yeah, I'm sitting there going, okay, it's fun looking, and I love the idea of the guy singing and the other guy playing the guitar while the models are walking down the runway. I actually think that's a really great idea for a fashion show. But I'm sitting there going, if you want the aesthetics to be what people take away most from this movie, and that's fine. You know, there have been lots of really good movies that focus on that, but if that's the case, you have to actually have us be able to tell what the aesthetics are. Hell, the scene at the end of that fashion show where Cruella's wearing the Dalmatian fur coat, we don't even get a real look at it until the Baroness says, she killed my dogs and she made a coat. I couldn't really even tell at first that was fur. I didn't get a good look at it until she goes into the kebab shop. And then you can actually see the detail on the hood. I'm a jewelry maker. I work in the fashion world. You know, I enjoy the aesthetics and the amount of detail that goes into that stuff. And I genuinely want to see more of that. Not going to lie, if a book is published, if a coffee table book comes out that says The Fashion of Cruella, and it actually has details about how the dresses were made, and the ideas that they had for the fashion, I will buy it.
Okay, so let me, I'll send you the link to it, okay? Because it exists.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, I mean, it's made for kids. I actually have it on my daughter's wish list now, but I'll send you the link to it if you can decide whether or not that's something you'd want to purchase.
Like I said, I'm not a costume maker, but I do work in the fashion world, and I was very intrigued by that. But again, I'm sitting there going, what does it say about this movie if I really would just rather watch a documentary on the making of the dresses?
All right, Mark, you had positive things to say.
Yeah, in the interest of time, I'll keep this to the good, bad, and ugly, because I've already kind of talked about the problem with prequel making and how it's a misunderstood art, to say the least.
Serious question.
Yeah.
And I mean this in all sincerity. You don't have to answer right away. We can think about this for later. Has there ever been an objectively good prequel?
I really would have to think about it.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I'm just... Because I'm with you, I can't.
Hang on a sec. I'm actually Googling.
Please.
Okay.
Mark, make your point.
So here's what's good. The performances, and for just to avoid the argument, the performances of the two Emmers are strong. They are given nothing to work with. But they're so talented, they can take nothing and at least make it entertaining on the screen. They are wonderful, competent, excellent actors who can take drivel and give it their zhuzh, their professional zhuzh, and entertain you for 2 hours on the screen with drivel. To the point where, unless you're thinking about it, you probably don't realize you're watching drivel. I'm in agreement with Alexis that when you can actually see the fashion, which is a major, it's one of those things where if the fashion's working, then the movie is working. When that's not present on screen, or if it doesn't work, then the whole thing kind of falls to pieces. When they got to the fashion part of it, and you got to see the various dresses and the upstaging sequence and everything, that all worked. If you're not a fan of high fashion, if you're not a fan of Project Runway, that sort of thing, or if you're just not a fan of the dresses, the costumes in this movie, then I can't imagine you weren't bored to tears to the point of suicide for the entire 2.5 hours it was going on. But
yeah.
But for the rest of the known universe, I would say most people are in agreement, myself included, that the costumes were the most winningest, most entertaining thing about this movie, objectively. And it'll probably, I don't think it'll win, but it'll probably get nominated for an Oscar for costumes, and at least deserves the nomination. I think, if nothing else, that's what they put the work into with this. I want to talk about the music. And we're going to talk about the music. I'm going to bring up the music again later to do the Amazon ad read. But
just do it now.
All right, well, fine, fuck it. The music, the original motion picture soundtrack has a whole bunch of hits from the 60s and 70s on it. For everything from Bloody Well Right by Supertramp, the biggest tramp of all, to 5 to 1, which was misused by the Doors. Not that the Doors misused it; it was misused in the movie. An awesome version I had never heard of, "A Whole Lot of Love" by Ike and Tina Turner. "Stone Cold Crazy" by Queen, one way or the other by Blondie. "Should Have Stayed, Should I Go" by The Clash, which again was also, I think, misused. In any case, and Ike and Tina Turner again doing "Come Together," which I'd never heard before. In any case, if you're like, the 9 out of 10 people who like all those songs and like this era of music, and you want to hear all of that, go ahead. I forgot to write the time down. Go ahead and check out our link at the description of the podcast for AmazonMusic.com. Our link is getamazonmusic.com/W2M network. You click it, you follow it to the page, you fill out the information, you get your free 30 days of Amazon Music, and it helps us out. It keeps the gears running on this here podcast machine. In any case, so someone clearly saw Guardians of the Galaxy and how effective that was, and obviously that's now become a trend in film. We saw it in Suicide Squad, we've seen it in other places.
Baby Driver comes to mind.
Well-placed popular music that 9 out of 10 people like and enjoy and pings good feelings will make you think you're enjoying a movie or make you think you're watching a good movie when you aren't. It's very psychologically effective, and it is the other reason why I think people really enjoyed Cruella, despite it being drivel. They heard music that made them feel good, and that signaled in their brain that they are having a fun time watching a fun thing happening. And that's what it was there for. They absolutely
We can't actually create something of quality, so let's rely on a Pavlovian response and the dim-witted dogs that represent our audience.
Yep, and it was 99% effective.
Hi, I'm the 1%.
You are the 1%. You 1%er you. I mean, look, I'm not going to lie. I was in that 99%. Call me a dummy if you will, and you have. But me and my kids, my kids who know none of that music, by the way, it's the first time they'd heard most of it. And, we were rocking out, man. We were just having a grand old time in our seats, and we were dancing, and we were having a good old time. And I'm 90% sure that it's part of the reason why when I asked them what they thought of the movie, they were like, it was amazing. Because the music has that psychologically signaling quality to it. So, it was enjoyable. It was effective. Unfortunately, misused in a bunch of scenes, but you can't, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, as Meatloaf once told us.
If only they'd hit that ratio.
So that's the good. The other thing about the good is aesthetically, in a very shallow way, I thought they represented the time well. I enjoyed the sets, set pieces, the general look of things. I'm a punk rocker at heart, and I enjoyed seeing that in the most Disney, most manufactured, most corporate, most anti-punk way possible, captured on screen. The irony of that is just amazing to me.
This is to punk. This is to the punk sequence what Blink 182 is to punk music.
This makes Blink 182 fucking look like John Cougar concentration camp.
No,
okay?
But you get my meaning.
Yeah, no, I totally get your meaning. So here again, here's what's bad about this. And I started to talk about this before, but let me kind of get straight to the point. This has no point of view. This has nothing to say. I mean, when your major theme of this is when bad things happen to people who don't have a strong enough moral compass to compensate, they will go on and do bad things. No fucking shit, Sherlock.
And yet, that's not even something approximating a point that this movie's trying to make, because it bends over backwards to couch Cruella as a sympathetic character.
Yeah, which she's not. She's terrible. They're all everyone's fucking terrible in this movie for one reason or another.
I know. None of the writers knew that, but I do.
That's a problem with this. It's like Cruella's not a good character, not a well-written character to begin with, but like just her character in and of itself is not good or someone I want to root for. Jasper and Schmagegi, her goons, while intermittently entertaining, depending on your point of view at the time, are not good people. Emma Thompson is not a good people, and she's stellar performance, and she looks great in her costumes.
The closest you get to a good character in this entire stupid movie is Mark Strong, who elected not to kill a baby.
Yeah, he got, and the problem is he's playing a mop. He's nothing for 90% of the movie. He does one thing. He's there. He's a narrative.
He's there to give exposition dump.
Yeah, he's there to do a thing and move the plot along. That's it. And it's like they gave Mark Strong nothing to do, and he did nothing really well. Good for him.
I actually just realized something. So if Pongo and Perdita, who we see are given to Roger and Anita at the end, came from the same
litter.
Yeah, they're brother and sister, sure.
So, yeah, aren't those 15 Dalmatian puppies going to have serious genetic problems due to inbreeding? I mean,
not in the 70s when it comes to Dalmatians. By the time you get to like the 90s and early 2000s, the Dalmatian gene pool for purebreds is a disaster zone. At that point in time, they're probably okay. Also, I defy you to rewatch the original 101 Dalmatians and not arrive at the conclusion that a few of those dogs are little bit...
reading a library's worth of nonfiction books while gestating in the womb? I'm just curious. What the fuck do you know about, not Dalmatian breeding patterns?
I just asked because, I'm sorry, I've talked about this before, I do work with adoption shelters, and one of the things I always push is that a lot of breeders, unfortunately, will breed sibling dogs so they can have pure bloodline. Yep. That leads to serious genetic problems. And shorter lifelines for these poor dogs. So
a lot of them are more inclined to other genetic conditions, hip dysplasia being a big one.
Yeah, so I was just sitting there going, wait, so Pongo and Perdita are brother and sister? That doesn't really work.
All right, we're almost at the hour mark here. So movie has no perspective. It has no editorial point of view. It comments on nothing about the world. And here's the thing, not every movie does. I don't need Joe Dirt to tell me about life, the universe, and everything. But a movie like this, set in that time period...
Believe it or not, Joe Dirt actually had an emotional core to it.
But, unlike I said before, unlike Joker, which was commenting about mental health and life in the 70s and, One Bad Day and all of that, the movie is, and I just said this about Saw, the movie is pointing from about 100 yards away at some things that were going on in the time period, maybe. And, it was pointing to the fashion, and it's pointing to the music. It's saying nothing about them, but it's pointing. And I'm like, this is now becoming an alarming trend in popular movies coming out of Hollywood right now, where it's like, listen, we don't want to spark a debate that ends with mean things being said about our movie on Twitter. So don't say anything. Don't have a perspective. Don't editorialize. Just kind of acknowledge it existed in the world, but don't take an opinion on the matter. And then what all you're left with is 2.5, and that's the other problem with this movie.
Yeah,
this was a 90-minute movie at best that was stretched to an ungodly fucking 2 hours and 15 minutes. The lack of restraint here, the overreach, and the desire to make a nothing into an epic is frankly insulting. And it's just, you guys have said before, oh my God, it's the movie that broke. I'm not broken about it. This isn't me falling down on my knees saying, curse you, Rob Winfree, why? Rise of the Skywalker, why? But I'm not that emotionally attached to it. But it's just, I look at this and I'm like, come on, Disney. You're not Peter Jackson. This isn't Lord of the Rings. Fucking stop. Know your place. Know your reach. Know your, if you're going to be the studio that's good, that's Good Time Charlie and doesn't want to offend people because, God forbid, you don't get into the Chinese market or some snowflake fucking asshole on Twitter says something bad about you in a tweet, then don't do this either. Stick to 90 minutes of the fucking Mighty Ducks, okay? Attractive actors, having a good time with some fun songs, saying nothing about nobody and entertaining almost everybody. That's it, Disney. That's what you are. This is you trying to be something while simultaneously not trying to be something and failing at both.
You know what this movie is? You remember that scene when Skinner gets fired briefly and he gets up there and tries to say that men and women are the same but not, and it's the differences and their sameness that break. Like, that's what this movie is.
Yeah, very good.
All right, I'm going to. I hate this movie. God bless Emma Stone and Emma Thompson for a superhuman effort carrying this pile of crap. Whatever they were paid, it was not enough to try and work through this. This movie is too long. This movie is unbearably stupid.
Let's give credit to the two Emmas and also to the dogs who played Buddy and Wink.
On the occasion when it's a dog and not a CGI'd thing, that really pissed me off about this movie. The number of times they have CGI'd the dogs. There's no reason for those Dalmatians to be CGI'd. None whatsoever. Yet,
I just liked all the scenes with Wink running around in the rat costume. That was really cute. I'm sorry, but I'm just gonna admit it's like, cute dog in a cute costume. I smiled.
Fair enough. I did not enjoy any bit of the acting that wasn't Emma Stone or Emma Thompson. Like you said, Mark Strong's a mop. Her goons annoyed me, and it took me a minute to figure out why for both of them. Horace annoys me because he is the typically stupid, no filter between brain and mouth character that I always hate.
He's also an American actor who, like I said earlier, was apparently told for your British accent, make sure every other consonant is just, we can't understand what the hell you're saying.
Yeah, his accent did not care for that.
Yeah, he's a good actor. Like I said, he's been in a couple of other films. He's a very good actor.
Yeah, I recognized him. He's done other stuff.
Yeah, no, he's good. He just cannot do a British accent, or he was directed to do a terrible British accent.
Can we do Cockney? Can you somehow do Cockney and Kurt Cobain at the same time? I'm not, matey. Perfect. Do that.
Yeah, that scene where he's talking about the car and is like, the devil. I couldn't actually understand a word he said. It was just like, no, it's pronounced devil. I'm like, he actually said something about devil? What?
Oh, God. Sorry, you just pinged the last point that I remembered I wanted to make. The thing I hate about prequels, and George Lucas, I especially hate you because you started this shit, is the forced contrivances, the hackneyed writing that has to get like Solo was a huge it was a huge thing about this.
To be fair to George Lucas, he had nothing to do with Solo. Just throwing that out.
but the prequels was what started this horse shit.
Yeah.
And
I got you.
Solo being one of the more recent ones that comes to mind, where everything has to be in the exact place, whether it's organic or not, and most of the time not, because these writers suck. So that when the next movie comes along, everything's where it's supposed to be. Where we remember it being. It's like a blind person putting things in places so that they remember that that's where it is all the time for when they need it. And it's like this movie is just littered with that. She's going to make a dogskin coat. So we have to give her a reason to hate dogs. What if it makes no sense or it's stupid? Doesn't matter. She has to hate dogs.
And what if by the end of it we kind of go back on the point and go, no, Cruella would never hurt a dog.
Or her last name is DeVille. Well, why is it DeVille? I don't know. Write a reason in. Okay, because it's named after a car. Like, it's stuff like that would make me just want to punch my own self in the face. It's such bad writing.
It really, really is. So that's why I disliked Taurus. It took me a minute to figure out why Jasper annoyed me. And I finally realized it when he and Cruella are sitting on the balcony before the big job at the end of the movie. After she's abused this poor sap a lot, and he just keeps coming back for more.
Is he not every abused boyfriend you've ever seen?
He's not even an abused boyfriend. I resisted the urge to when we got to that sequence in the movie, and he says, "Yeah, I have a hard time saying no to you." I had to almost bite my tongue, literally, to stop from yelling "simp" at the screen.
You can do better.
It was more fun in the '96 film where we had Hugh Laurie, and you at least got the impression that he was being paid well to suck it up.
I know.
Well, that Hugh Laurie was great in that movie.
That too. That movie is so much better than it has any right to be. It really does.
Mm-hmm.
But his only defining characteristic is that he pines after Cruella, and she could not possibly care less if he were run over by a bus.
It does make it a little weird.
It's up to my OnlyFans.
It does make it weird when you think about how much of Cruella abuses Jasper and Horace in both the 61 and the 96 film. And you go, wait, they were childhood friends? This is the woman who, wrenched a wine bottle out of his hands, threw it into the fireplace, and then slapped the crap out of them, screaming, "Do it tonight, you imbeciles!"
Yeah, how Horace didn't throw her out the window when she came out of the thing. And I have decided I am Cruella, and knocks his breakfast on the table. At which point, any man worth his weight in penis would have chucked her from the balcony.
You are not wrong, sir.
No, I mean, I'm making light of it, but nobody would tolerate that. Nobody
would also say "you're blowing my mind right now" as a spoken word of dialogue.
I did kind of like the lines like, "What about breakfast?" which is on the floor. Just the way you could clearly see he's putting the dots together in his brain. That was kind of a fun read.
I hated them. The CGI dogs annoyed me more than I can't really express why.
Well, bad CGI is a pet peeve of yours.
Well, yeah, but it's not just that. It almost speaks to something about the mentality of this movie that we can't even get trained dogs. Right? Like, we'd rather CGI this crap than get a real dog for these sequences.
But isn't that the trend now in Hollywood, which is we're going to do everything on the computer?
Unfortunately, it's more so we're going to have CGI dogs because people have been coming after Hollywood after the video of the one dog from, I think it was called A Dog's Life, or This Dog's Life.
Story.
Dog Story, yeah, with the dog getting thrown with the rapids.
People freaking out about a 20-second clip completely devoid of context because outrage drives Twitter.
Yeah, but nowadays, unfortunately, PETA has got enough of a...
PETA is the worst organization in one of the worst organizations.
Let her finish her point.
For the record, I agree. I hate PETA. But they've got enough of an argument against Hollywood. This is why that horrible Harrison Ford film, Call of the Wild, the dog was entirely CGI. Because the studio essentially said, we cannot find ways to force a dog to act this way without incurring the wrath of every animal rights activist on the planet. More and more animals are being CGI just because they really don't want to piss those people off.
That seems like it's like a smaller part of the bigger point that I made, which is we don't want to do anything to offend anybody everywhere, so let's just make the driest, most shallowest movie we can, but we'll shine it up, we'll bedazzle it. We'll bedazzle it with great costumes. No one seems to get mad at costumes. So we'll dazzle this thing with great costumes. And let's put actresses in it that have strict contracts to not say anything right-wing at all, ever, under any circumstances, Gina Carano. And, and then we'll put in a great soundtrack, because we learned that from James Gunn, that works really, really well. Ugh.
This movie is unbearably shallow, impossibly stupid, one of the worst written things I've ever reviewed. Not ever seen, but ever reviewed. And it tries desperately to distract you, the audience, from these critical, fatal failings with the dumbest, shallowest, stupidest versions of jingling keys that it possibly can, with stuff that either looks shiny or sounds shiny, as some desperate, sad attempt that you won't actually think for 1 millisecond about the sheer stupidity taking place on your screen. This movie is terrible.
This movie is boring.
It really is.
Go watch the 61 film for a more compelling story. Go watch the 96 version for more fun characters.
Yeah, I'm not one of these people who, because I have torn critics apart for this, that whenever they get up there and say this movie doesn't justify its existence, that's not a complaint. Like that's not a valid piece of criticism. I don't care if this movie justifies its own existence, whatever nebulous phrase, whatever meaning you wish to apply to that particular nebulous bit of phrasing, you pompous, self-indulgent hacks. But this movie, like you guys said, has nothing to say. It has no point of view. It has, and it doesn't even need some great big political agenda. It has nothing. It is as shallow and disposable in practice as it is in theory. There is nothing here. You shouldn't see this. No one should see this. And whoever thought this was a good idea should be thrown from a balcony. I wish to find the writers. Who wrote this, by the way? Hang on. We have the screenplay. I got it. The screenplay is by Dana Fox and Tony McNamara, with a story by Aileen Bosch McKenna, Kelly Marcel, and Steve Zisses. I hope, for all of your sakes, those are pseudonyms, because you should never attach yourself to something this badly written. Willingly.
Oh, no, at least one of those actually wrote this as an original story with different characters, and when Disney bought it, they said, we're going to turn this into a Cruella film.
So somebody originally wrote bad fanfic for some combination of The Devil Wears Prada and Project Runway. Disney bought it and said, Cruella, and they got, like, okay, fine, whatever. But really...
And finally, Disney, if you want to do a villain gone bad and why they went bad story... You can do that, but maybe don't pick a character who wanted to kill puppies, because the more seriously, it's like that trope with the horror movies where a serial killer kills a bunch of people, no one cares, but when that killer attacks a dog, all of a sudden, oh, this is too much for me.
Mm-hmm.
Same principle. People don't care that Maleficent wanted to kill baby Aurora. People don't want to support a character who kills puppies.
Yeah, it's really not that complicated. Okay, last thing. Whoever wrote the original score for this, let me see if I can find that too. Nicholas Britell. You, sir, scored the grift of a lifetime with this job. Because the only bit of original music you wrote was actually cribbed from some YouTube musicians I follow. And I know that because I recognized the stupid little beat that you used. Other than that, you got to get paid for doing nothing while the studio burned a pile of money getting the licensing rights to all those other songs. Good for you. I can't even say that sarcastically. You got paid for nothing. I have to applaud that. Yeah, I think that's everything. I don't think I had anything else to say about this. This movie is awful. This is just an awful movie that tries very, very hard to hide its... If you are not... Mark said it like this. If you're not big into fashion or have some deep affection for the music, watching this movie is like watching someone... It's Leslie Nielsen in front of the explosion going, nothing to see here.
The explosion would at least be entertaining to watch.
Yeah, sure. I'll buy that. This is a terrible movie, and I want the screenwriters in particular.
You know what this is like?
About the Head and Shoulders.
Do you remember the Eddie Izzard bit where he's comparing British film to American film? Do you know the bit that I'm talking about? Okay.
No.
So, Eddie Izzard's talking about British film, and he goes, British film was a lot of guys going into rooms going, no, Sebastian, I don't... Whew. Well, I guess you better go then. I guess I better go. And then he kind of does an impression of like himself watching a British film like that, and he's like, it's not the kind of thing you can eat popcorn to, and so he kind of just does this impression of like the guy just kind of throwing the popcorn back into the bucket, putting it down, and sighing. He was like, but if a British film is good and it does any bit of business in Europe, it'll get remade in America, but it'll be a room with a view of a gun to kill a guy, it just goes on. And then, and it's the same bit, only now he's like, hey, you're fucking a thing, and you're fucking... He goes on and on and on. This movie, if you're not into the music and you're not into the fashion, is like watching Eddie Izzard's impression of British film.
There are British films I would rather have watched.
I'm sure.
A great number of them.
But you get my meaning.
I
do.
do.
Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
That would be a great movie to watch.
So the point that he's trying to make...
with a much better gay character than the ones they shoehorned into this thing.
The point that he's trying to make is that if you're not into what's on screen, it's very hard to watch, it's very long, it's very boring.
Long, boring, and the most... Again, even if I'd like to think, I may be wrong about this, but given that I've done this with other movies where the bad distractions were things I did care about, I'd like to think that even if I had some affection for one or both of those things, I could still notice the great Grand Canyon of a gap that is your piss-poor writing for this thing.
I've said in a lot of these reviews, this is not a well-written movie, but I was having fun watching it. And if there's ever a movie that defined that, it's probably this one. Not for you. Obviously, this was a torturous, horrible endeavor that ruined your year. But I mean, for the rest of us mortals, but for the rest of us mortals, it really was one of those where it was like, cognitively in your mind somewhere, it's not good. But it has all this other, all these other balls in the air and gymnasts doing flips and and a guy taming a tiger, and motorcycles in a ball in a sphere that you're like, I'm so distracted from how stupid this is that I'm having a good time. It is the very definition of this is poorly written, but I'm having a good time.
Oh, by the way, Robert, back to your earlier thing, has there ever been a good prequel? Let's see here. Red Dragon, Casino Royale.
I don't count. Hang on. I don't count Casino Royale because the James Bond franchise resets with every new actor. I don't think that qualifies. I might give you Red Dragon, even though Red Dragon is a...
But you hated Red Dragon.
No.
Which is the one where Ray Liotta eats his... what's his face eats Ray Liotta's brain? Oh, that's the one you hated. Okay.
Yeah, that's a very poor movie. Red Dragon is...
Ed Norton, I remember now. Go on.
Yeah.
What else you got, Alexis?
Let's see here. Some of these, like Robert said, don't count because they reset. I mean, the new Star Trek film with Chris Pine in it is on here, but that's, again, a timeline reset, so that technically doesn't count. Rise of the Planet of the Apes?
Yeah.
Which one?
That's the one. She's talking about the one with James Franco.
Okay.
Well, I
Yeah.
thought all those movies were pretty decent.
No, I actually stick up for those three movies. I think they're a genuinely really good trilogy. So I might give you Rise of the Planet of the Apes. If I wanted to be pedantic, I could argue against it because it technically establishes its own separate trilogy independent of the original films. But again, that's a little bit too lawyery even for me. So I'll give you Rise.
And would you count the Hobbit movies?
Oh, those are not good movies. Those are yet again the very edition of woohoo, but you're way distracted from how stupid they are.
Hang on. First of all, the first Hobbit movie is I think good on its own. I think an objectively good movie.
I will give you that one, but come on, man.
Oh, no.
We talked about those other
did.
two ones.
Look, there was
Sorry,
not enough.
Okay, hang on. Let me correct myself. Sean and I talked about the Hobbit trilogy. You and I talked about the Battle of the Five Armies.
I think we reviewed all three
Nope.
of those. Nope, just the last one?
Just the last one.
There's not enough material for a trilogy out of The Hobbit. You should have done 2 movies instead of 3. And yeah, the last 2 fall apart in no small part because of that. But I will stick up for An Unexpected Journey. I think that's a genuinely good movie.
Yeah, I'll rescind my guffaw and say and agree with the assertion that at least An Unexpected Journey is a good prequel.
Okay, so I'll give you that one.
All right. Like I said, the rest on this list, I know you're either going to say are mediocre at best.
No, I want to hear this list now. Rip through this.
Okay. For some reason, okay, it's interesting because they give The Godfather Part 2 on this. Even though that's a sequel, it does a lot it also does a lot of flashbacks as a prequel. So they said it can kind of double as both.
It really can, and if you choose to count it as such, then yes, that's the best prequel ever made because it's one of the best movies ever made.
All right. Unfortunately, it also puts Prometheus on here, and we know that's bullshit.
I stick up for.
Hang on.
up for Prometheus just a little bit. What came after it? Not so much.
We are at an hour and 15. You are restricted, and I will restrict myself to yes or no. Alexis, rip through this.
Bumblebee is on the list.
No.
Okay. Yeah, it's got the Casino Royale and those sequels, so that doesn't count. You already answered Rogue One.
Yes.
I know you answered Monsters University a while back.
I know I reviewed it. It was fine. I don't remember being aghast one way or the other.
And it's still a Pixar movie, and it's lower tier Pixar, which makes it a very good movie by most stretches. But
okay,
the fact that I barely remember it exists says a lot about it.
Paranormal Activity 3.
No.
Okay, and Batman Begins doesn't count.
Batman Begins is also awesome.
Yeah,
Batman Begins is a good movie, but again, I'm not sure I'd count it as a prequel.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is a lot of these I'm going through here. I'm like, wait, no, I can't mention that because it's resets its own timeline. So by Robert's definition, it can't count.
I think by reasonable definition, it shouldn't count.
Yeah, there's also a movie here called The Kill Order, which I've never heard of. And at the bottom of the list is Oz the Great and Powerful, which I know we all hate.
Movie is so bad.
Ooh, look, if your starring roles go to James Franco and Mila Kunis, maybe just punt on that one, yeah?
And on that note, here comes the money. I'm not going to stop laughing about James Franco in the fucking Oz movie. Woo! Here comes the money.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money.
Dollar.
All right, on an estimated budget of $200 million.
I feel like half of that was what they paid for the music.
We're gonna again say $200 million. Just leave it at that. The theatrical box office is currently standing at, as of this writing, per the wiki page, $42.6 million. And then I read on Twitter today that Samba, a company that measures these things, is estimating roughly $50 million in premiere purchases from Disney Plus. So it's currently standing at $90-ish million.
How did they get to 50?
I don't remember what I sent you guys, but that's what I remember reading the headline.
I think you said there was like 636,000 downloads, something like that.
You'd have to look. I'm not looking at it.
I'm pretty sure it's something like that. So if we move the decimal place 2, so because at $30 a pop, you figure move the decimal place 2, that gets you to 6 million tripled. The 8 in there. I don't know. My loose mental math around that came out to closer to like 30 than 50.
Okay. I'm going to give him credit for 50 and say the movie is ranging in the $90 million range. On a $200 million budget.
Which is, that ain't good.
No, but weirdly enough, and I mentioned this, you got offline, I don't remember if we've said it on the podcast or not, but the Emmys are pitching a sequel to this, and Disney's like, yeah, we're willing to do a sequel on this. And I'm like, based on what?
They will. Disney is just content to burn money.
I guess. If nothing else, they can always do it and just throw it directly onto Disney Plus because, hey, subscribers. In any case, A Quiet Place Part 2 won the weekend, Memorial Day weekend, so we're looking at all 4 days, the 28th through the 31st. A Quiet Place won with currently at total $57-ish million for Paramount Pictures. Cruella came in at second. All right, no, these are domestic. Where are the worldwide grosses? It doesn't matter. Cruella came in second place in its debut. Ryan the Last Dragon is at third. Wrath of Man 4, Spiral 5, Demon Slayer 6, Godzilla vs. Kong 7, Those Who Wish Me Dead 8, Dream Horse 9, World War Z got re-released in theaters this past weekend. Came in at number 10.
Oh, I could have seen that. It would have been nice to see in theaters. Guess it didn't come out around.
Back a second. For just the... Okay, here we go. For just the regular weekend, May 28th through the 30th, again, those first two don't change. Quiet Place and Cruella were 1 and 2 respectively. Ryan the Last Dragon last week was number 4. It actually went up a place to number 3. And apparently, it's starting to make some decent money. Spiral plummeted from 1 to 4. Wrath of Man 2 to 5.
We do have to talk a little bit about the catastrophic plummeting that Fast 9 took in China.
Sure. As soon as I'm done with my stats here.
Yeah.
Godzilla vs. Kong maintained its place at number 6. Demon Slayer fell from 5 to 7. Dream Horse 9 to 8. Those Who Wish Me Dead 3 to 9. Something called Bogia, which was in very limited release, came in at number 10. World War Z number 11. Mortal Kombat 7 to 12. Finding You 10 to 13. Nobody 15 to 14. The Unholy 14 to 15. Here Today 13 to 16. Final Account 19 to 17. The Dry 20 to 18. The Croods, oh my god, with this stupid movie, 17 to 19. And finally, New Order from 18 to 20. There's a documentary that's in very limited release right now that debuted at number 4. It's called American Trader, The Trial of Axis Sally. And that's it. Where we are worldwide. F9, currently, just based on its worldwide gross, it has not, obviously, not until June 25th, will open in America. But it's currently at number 4, and that is about the only movement here. First 3 movies are High Mom, Detective Chinatown, and Godzilla vs. Kong. Impasse is at number 5, A Writer's Odyssey number 6. Ryan the Last Dragon has eked its way into the top 10, and at number 7. It beat Tom and Jerry. Hey, good for you, Disney. You got to win. It's got currently 128 million worldwide.
That's
Sister,
not a win.
I mean, we're still dealing in pandemic times here.
Okay.
I'm glad you don't, but it doesn't, let's stick with reality. That should sound familiar. Sister, number 8, with 128 million. Tom and Jerry, 116 million. And My Love, Freddie, My Love, 113 million. Some other ones that we've talked about this year, Mortal Kombat's currently sitting at 81 million worldwide. Wrath of Man, 80 million. Oh, God, compare those two. Mortal Kombat, split release, 81 million. Wrath of Man, no split release, just theatrical, 80 million. A Quiet Place Part 2 is currently almost at 80 million at number 15 for the year worldwide. And Cruella is currently sitting at number 22. Peter Rabbit, which has not had a domestic U.S. release yet, but has been released worldwide, is currently sitting at 36 million. And Spiral has dropped down to 34 with a chintzy, piddly 26 million. All right, and you want to talk about Fast 9, so go ahead.
Well, just very briefly. So, week to week, from its first week to its second week in China, Fast 9 dropped 85% of its box office. That's a catastrophic issue. Now, I don't know that same drop will take place in the United States or anywhere else. But between John Cena saying something that the government didn't approve of, because the Chinese government refuses to acknowledge the existence of Taiwan as a country, and apparently the reviews for it being crap, that thing dropping 85% from first week to second week, again, that's a catastrophic fall. Now, I don't know that that's going to happen in the United States, like I said. I don't. But that is not a good sign. Just throwing it out there.
So, Cruella, at this point, I would imagine it's in its second week is going to take a pretty steep drop. A Quiet Place seems to be doing well both critically and financially. So, maybe it maintains its spot at the number one. But it does have some competition this coming Friday, June 4th. You have The Conjuring, which is a split release day and date with HBO Max. The other wide release is Samaritan, which they have, if Cruella spent all its money on marketing and music, Samaritan has spent none. I have not seen a trailer for this. I have not seen a poster.
Me neither.
There have been no indications they're selling tickets for this thing, and maybe that'll change tomorrow because usually they release Friday tickets on Wednesday. But, I bought Fast 9 tickets today, and Samaritan tickets are still not on sale. This is an action superhero movie starring Sylvester Stallone. I know about it because I researched this stuff. Alexis, do you know what the fuck I'm talking about?
Not a clue. And I'm usually the one always checking movie trailers so I know what to post to my company's board.
You're gonna make any Samaritan jewelry?
Let me check. Let me check my local theater, see if there's something that'll be. Seeing if there's. I'm going to see if there's even a showing of that thing.
Dude, I got tickets for my daughter and my wife to go see My Fair Lady June 13th. There's still nothing in the AMC app about Samaritan, and I've looked, and I've checked Fandango too.
I'm checking my local Cinemarks for that. I'm not see. Okay, I'm just going to throw it out there. We're supposed to have a Damn You Hollywood for that movie. If I can't find a showing, we can't review it.
I believe me, I'm like halfway ready to take it off the calendar to give myself the fucking night off. But so allegedly, Samaritan threatening to come out in wide release. And then the other wide release is an animated feature from Universal called Spirit Untamed. Wild Horses are going to carry you away.
The sequel to an old, I believe that's the sequel to the old DreamWorks movie, also called Spirit, but it was subtitled. Wasn't it like Stallion of the Cimarillon or something like that?
Yeah,
Maybe.
And for the record, guys, I just went to the IMDb page. Samaritan not only doesn't have a trailer, it doesn't have a poster.
I mean, it does in this what I'm looking at, but yeah, United Artists, apparently they ran out of money. I don't know what happened here. So yeah, I would imagine if A Quiet Place has probably got a 50-50 shot of maintaining its number one spot. You guys can talk more about this tomorrow when you review it if you are so inclined. I'll let Robert decide what you guys are going to do. But the other thing that, again, it's probably going to end up being either The Conjuring or The Conjuring, because I can't imagine Spirit Untamed is going to debut at number one either. So it's either going to be The Conjuring or it's going to be A Quiet Place. Sure as shit ain't going to be Cruella. June 11th, the wide release is In the Heights, which is day and date HBO Max, which Alexis and I will be reviewing. And I may or may not have my daughter on that show. It'll be up to her.
Didn't you off? Hang on. I would like to share for everyone, just very briefly, an exchange that Mark and I had about In the Heights. Mark said, "Hey, it's that Lin-Manuel Miranda guy that everyone loves. It's a musical. I'm in. Alexis is in. Do you want to do it?" And I just told Mark, "Do you really think I'm the right guy to talk about that movie?"
I don't want to feel like you're excluded.
No.
To feel like you're excluded.
I appreciate the ask. I really genuinely do. But I'm the last guy you want talking about that movie.
Like, well, did you like Hamilton?
No.
Okay, never mind then.
No, I didn't. I did not.
The Hitman's
Hang on. 1776 is a better musical about those exact same sequence of events.
The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard comes out June 16th. It'll probably win its weekend. It's got an earlier release than June 18th, obviously. When Peter Rabbit comes out, which is the only wide release of then. The following week, we've got a limited release of a movie that we're going to review on here about a video game that I've never heard of, but neither is Sean. But hey, Sean likes video games, and Sean occasionally wants to do more than just one podcast a month. So we're going to review Werewolves Within, but it's not going to win anything.
It'll win your Mark. It'll win your heart.
That's really all that matters. But the obvious winner of the June 25th weekend will be F9. So. So Cruella's done, basically. It'll, we talked about this earlier. My prediction is if it gets to 300 million, it should consider itself lucky. It's probably going to end its run all told, at least theatrically, between 200 and 300. Though I can't imagine it's going to do that much more better than 50 million on Disney Plus. I'll give you the last word here, and then we'll move on.
This is a loss financially for everyone. This is a loss for humanity. This is just a loss, Mark. This is just a loss. We all have to take the L that a bunch of people thought this was a good idea, and we have to grieve, we have to mourn, and we have to promise never again, and move on.
You know what cracks me up about that? I know, just because I'm in a whole bunch of different like podcast Facebook groups now, and I have seen a lot of people of, you know, we're because we do these on Tuesdays after the weekend, we're late to the party. A lot of people, especially if it's something that's day and date, like HBO Max or Disney Plus, people get their shit up fast. Like we were the first ones to do Army of the Dead, but generally speaking, we lag behind most of the internet with a lot of these movies. And I have seen so many reviews popping up on Facebook groups and podcast Facebook groups of, "Oh my God, Cruella was the best thing ever. Oh my God, Cruella was great." And we're about to get into all of that just from the professional critic side. But I mean, like, when I talk about, most of the known universe, I'm only slightly exaggerating. People fucking love this movie, and it makes me sad.
It really, I'm glad that it does, Mark. It gives me a little bit of hope that you can see the problems in society as they continue on their downward trend.
Does it give you a new hope? Don't answer that.
No.
And on that note,
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
the critical review on Damn You Hollywood is brought to you by Grammarly. Grammarly's AI-powered products help people communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and nearly anywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, and spelling mistakes while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. To download Grammarly today, go to getgrammarly.com/W2Mnetwork. Again, that's getgrammarly.com/W2Mnetwork to download Grammarly for free.
Why do you talk like that?
Because I had a stroke.
There we go. I
You
was wondering if you were going to get my reference.
Oh yeah, I totally got it. By the way, you were afforded one dance, monkey.
What?
You are afforded to say one to me, dance, monkey, because I danced for you.
How? No, you didn't.
The tomato meter for the critics has this at 73%, and with over 2,500 verified ratings, the audience score for Cruella on Rotten Tomatoes is 97%.
It's the same 97% of people who think Thor Ragnarok is a good movie.
Our dumb culture. Speaking of dumb culture, Alexandra Heller Nicholas of ABC Radio Australia, top
Wow.
critic.
Got enough names there?
Only 3. Although this film is not for me, struggles to hit the 2 out of 5. The 10-year-old I saw it with was so tickled by it and explicitly instructed me to note it in the review that they give it a 4 out of 5. So in the spirit of democracy, a 3 out of 5 it is. Lady, I can get away with this because I'm on a stupid... Wait, I can get away with this because I'm on a stupid podcast. No one's paying me, so if I want to talk about my fucking kids, the only person I'm going to annoy is Robert and possibly, to a lesser extent, Alexis. But I don't care. It's my podcast. I'm going to talk about him anyway. They fucking pay you for this. Stop talking about your damn kid. Go on.
Oh, sorry, sneezed. Had to mute myself.
Like, what did you do? Walk off the show?
No. Look, you want me to sneeze into my mic?
Not particularly.
Then I have to mute myself on occasion when I have to sneeze. You disingenuous hack! You know this movie sucks. You just said you know this movie sucks. But, the kiddies, and I don't want to piss off Disney. Shame on you.
I'm going to read this one because it's an interesting detail, not because I necessarily have a problem with the review. Samuel L. Murray, Samuel Bronkowitz. Samuel. I have a little tick. Samuel L. Murray of Parade magazine. Splendid as the performances are, the costumes by Mad Max Fury Road Oscar winner Jenny Beavan, Stone has 47 changes in the film, are the MVP here. Garments haven't told their own story like this since, well, another picture starring Stone, The Favorite. Alexis, I want to just get your response to that, because I think you would largely agree, yeah?
Oh, I've actually spent the last few minutes on Amazon seeing if they've released a book about from the fashion designer on this movie, and nope, nothing yet. Although I did notice that apparently there's a Cruella manga, but I'm a little pissed off because they stole the same title from a Harley Quinn book, Black, White, and Red.
Yep, I put the manga and the kids' fashion book on my daughter's wish list, which I still have to send you the link for.
Oh, I have a thing I want to send you that your daughter might like. Just remind me when we're done.
Okay. We can stop talking about my daughter now.
Oh, now you want to stop talking about your kids.
Robert Dennerstein of Dennerstein.
Hang on.
Oh, did you have something to say about this? Because what there's there to say?
Didn't recognize the name of the person who had done the costuming. So, the fact that this is the same person that did the genuinely great work on Mad Max Fury Road. Good for them, I suppose. Just as a minor note. Fury Road being a personal favorite movie.
Yeah, I know. Robert Dennerstein of Dennerstein Unleashed. The movie acknowledges its Disney past, but mostly succeeds in taking it to entertaining new levels.
Shut up.
A new level of confidence and power. Such power.
Can we stop as a... This goes out to the culture at large. There's two sayings that people use that I really wish we'd retire. Can we stop with let's go when something's done? And can we stop with using the next level as some great descriptor? It's not. Stop it.
It's kind of like using the phrase ahead of their time when describing artists.
It really is.
Mark Mezzaros of the News Herald, Willoughby, Ohio. Set against the punk rock revolution in 1970s London, Cruella boasts a well-thought-out and executed aesthetic that takes it up a notch.
Oh, see, you may as well have just said it takes it to the next level. It doesn't actually mean anything, you moron. You're just desperately trying not to say something negative for reasons I can't possibly comprehend.
This person strung together words like a popcorn wreath.
All right.
Josh Davis of Pop Culture Leftovers. Cruella, the movie, is brash and brassy, stylish and wicked, and overall a thoroughly entertaining watch.
I mean,
Can we come up with a term for the reviewers who clearly are just trying to say something so they can get on the DVD box?
we do need it. We haven't found our phrase for it yet, but you're right. We need one.
All right,
Congratulations, Thesaurus Man. You did a good job looking stuff up.
Alexis, since you like to look things up, I need you to look something up for me.
Okay.
List of Disney prequels.
All right, hang on a second.
Yep, you do that. I'm going to read a different one, and then I'll come back to this.
Please tell me. Okay, so I can guess because of what you just said, what that idiot said. I can take a shot in the dark at it, and I can't wait to step on his neck.
Yep. I'm setting you up. I've bumped the volleyball, or set the volleyball rather. Jocelyn Novick.
I have such a great reference for that, but you wouldn't get it.
Jocelyn Novick of the Associated Press, top critic, Red Star. She gets paid for this. This is what they chose. Out of whatever the fuck review she wrote, this is the line they chose, either her or Rotten Tomatoes. The Met Gala should be so lucky. That line tells me nothing about the movie. I wouldn't know out of context what it was even referring to.
An utterly unhelpful review. And frankly, if you've seen the Met Gala from the last couple of years, this movie's downright restrained.
Mark, when you want to know every Disney prequel, do you want that to include the direct-to-video collection?
Let's keep this to theatrical because I can't imagine the person who wrote the review they wrote meant the direct-to-video. But if it helps, I don't want you to spend all year on this or drive yourself crazy. So whatever you find, we can work around. Jenny Nulf of Austin Chronicle top critic. Cruella is not as perfect as the seams Estella Stitches, but there's something ever so charming about its strut. Woo!
Congratulations. You're a small child struck in the head, now easily distracted by people with confidence. You're ripe for scam artists, lady. How can you possibly be this oblivious to what's actually going on? How are people this easily distracted? Mark, help me. Help me understand the people.
All right. Natasha Alvar, or Cultured Vultures, Robert, says, listen, you stick in the mud. Stop taking film so seriously. This shit's not meant to be taken seriously. Why can't you just have fun, Robert Winfree? And she says so thusly. Some movies, Robert Winfree, are meant to be fun and not taken so seriously. That's Disney's Cruella, don't you understand? In a nutshell. Enjoy the aesthetics and the madcap plot, not as a treatise on femininity and fashion, because that it is not.
I don't need everything to be serious. I do need everything to be competent.
You ready for me, Alexis?
I'm having trouble because most of these are giving... The majority of articles I'm finding are prequels, sequels, and threequels, and almost all of them are including the direct-to-DVD collection.
All right, pick one. I'm going to read this, and we're going to try to make some hay out of this, okay? You ready?
I can't even remember. Was Bambi 2 released in theaters?
No. That was direct-to-video.
Okay.
All right, we'll call it in the ring. Tate Stables of Total Film. It's hands down, Robert Winfree, Disney's best and punchiest prequel yet. One whose playful perils make for a deliciously rowdy ride.
Playful perils. Playful.
Like burning a woman alive.
She was nearly burned alive. Like, no! Not every sequence is life or death in this movie, fine. But let's not paint that broad a picture over this. This is supposed to be serious stuff. Or at least have a backdrop of seriousness to make you care about things. It fails miserably, because you don't care about anything in this show other than which stupid dopamine hit you're going to get next from your Pavlovian response to music of the Rolling Stones.
I mean, here.
Hang on. If we're talking about Disney prequels, I'm just going to say this. This is not a movie that is appreciably better than Hook. Or Pan. Sorry, Hook's a sequel. This is not a movie that is appreciably better than Pan. Which had a bunch of slaves in a quarry singing Nirvana to elicit the same response of, oh, I know that song. So what I'm watching must not be terrible.
Someday I'm going to get around to re-airing our review of Pan because it makes me laugh how much we tore that movie apart.
It's awful. So's this.
So let me ask you, before Alexis starts to read off a list of movies this may or may not have been better than, queuing you up there, Alexis. Go back to our reviews of Maleficent and Maleficent Child of the Satan, or Star of David, or whatever the fuck, Mistress of the Dark, BDSM of the Brooklyn. I don't remember the name of the movie anymore, but the two Maleficent movies.
I'm pretty sure it was Mistress of Evil.
Okay. I feel like this movie was at least more coherent plot-wise than Maleficent was, and an all-around better movie than Mistress of Evil was. Am I remembering wrong?
A little bit. I can't even give you a better plot than the first Maleficent movie because of, no, she's your mother all along. Like, there's too much stupidity in this. There is too much stupidity and contrivance around elements of this plot for me to say it's appreciably better in terms of its structure and writing than Maleficent. I can't do it.
I remember that everyone's making a big deal of him cutting off her wings, and I can't remember if it was because it was stupid or because it elicited like a rape response from people. I remember that being part of the conversation, though.
Of course, there's part of it. Yeah, they give a bad rape allegory for what makes her go evil because really it was all Charlito Copley's fault.
Right. That much I remember. Okay, so maybe depending on your point of view, this may or may not have been better than Maleficent, but it's gotta be better than the sequel.
Oh, the Maleficent of Evil one with Michelle Pfeiffer as the bad guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might do that.
All right, so Alexis, let's play a game. Time to play the game. Is this or is this not better than fill in the blank?
Okay, because the truth is, after searching through all this, if Bambi 2 was released in theaters, and I think it was, then that, Maleficent, Cruella, and Monsters University are the only theatrically released prequels.
This is not better than Monsters University.
So Monsters University at least had a little bit more fun color and attention to detail.
It also had a genuinely heartbreaking moment. If Mike Wazowski realizing that he's not scary doesn't break your heart just a little bit, then you might not have a soul.
Actually, I go with the moment where Mike realized that Sully rigged the final obstacle course for them to win because he didn't trust Mike.
That too.
Yeah, that was the moment
There's
where
good stuff in that movie.
Really? That's all the prequels they've done so far, huh?
Well, you
everything else is direct to DVD. We have, everything else. Let's see here. We have 2 for Beauty and the Beast, The Enchanted Christmas, and Belle's Magical World. Lion King 1.5 technically counts. Fox and the Hound.
Lion King 1.5 is better than Cruella. First of all.
Fox and the Hound 2. Let's see here. Sequel, remake, sequel. Little Mermaid era beginning.
I guess because some of these are just remakes and they're not prequels. The list feels longer than it really is. Because I'm looking at it now. It's like Aladdin was just a remake. Lion King was a remake. Cinderella was a remake. Beauty and the Beast was a remake. Dumbo was a remake. Pete's Dragon was a remake. Christopher Robin was not a remake, but it was like set post Winnie the Pooh. Lady and the Tramp was a remake. Fuck it. All right, never mind.
Okay, look again. If we're counting Lion King 1.5, then that's better than that alone is better than Cruella.
All right, moving on. I think we can all agree that the guy's wrong.
You know what? For this, I will give this dim-witted, low-level primate at least a bit of. I'm going to assume he was thinking that this is better than at least something, and could only come up with off the top of his head 1 or 2 other examples of films that might meet his criteria, and went, it's better than these ones that I think of off the top of my head. I'm not even going to Google this, and that's how we arrived at where we are.
Matthew St. Clair of Cinema Centuries, a nearly idiosyncratic Disney retelling.
Oh, get bent. That's not actually a helpful phrase for review purposes. Moreover, I'm not entirely sure you actually meant to use idiosyncratic that way. I almost feel like you looked up the wrong word in your thesaurus search.
Here we have a man desperately seeking validation. Doug Walker of Channel Awesome.
Okay, this guy is the living embodiment of all the energy that Jasper gives off in this movie.
With 2/3 being incredibly entertaining, mathematically I have to recommend it. Though it would be nice to get a Disney live-action remake that's enjoyable all the way through.
This isn't even 2/3 good. At best, you get the middle third when you have all the music set to... when you have all the montages set to music.
Sarah Michelle Fetters of MovieFreak.com, top critic. There's not much of 101 Dalmatians author Dodie Smith's source material or its classic 1961 animated adaptation to be found inside Disney's Cruella, and I'm perfectly okay with that. Did she not get the memo this was a prequel?
Look, I will freely admit that it's possible to go too deep with canon. I mean, if you look at comics trying to make sense of them to that degree, it's destroyed them in a large sense in terms of their overall continuity. People trying to pay too much attention to it and whatnot, it wrecks it. By the same token, if you're deliberately going to style yourself like that, you do have to at least acknowledge that particular material, and it should be present in some degree. You're adapting something. So there should be some of its DNA still there. Look, we mentioned it before. This was another script for an entirely different movie that Disney bought and slapped Cruella onto because that strategy worked out so well for the Hellraiser franchise, didn't it?
Jeff Mitchell of Phoenix
Narrator voice, it did not.
Jeff Mitchell of Phoenix Film Festival. Cruella, don't you understand, is a film to behold rather than enjoy.
No, you moron. What? This is a film designed to be seen, not enjoyed or thought about or contemplated.
Then maybe they should have actually paid a little bit more attention to focusing on the aesthetics, like I mentioned earlier. It certainly would not have hurt. I can't say it wouldn't have hurt. That almost certainly would have made it better.
So there's a few more of these that I wanted to read, but I got to skip to this one because it's so bad. It's just so stupid. Like, ugh, it hurts that these people are on Rotten Tomatoes, and it just hurts. Adam Sweeting of The Art Desk. The Art Desk, Robert Winfree. Woo! At the end of the day, Cruella may have some serious mother issues, but she isn't really cruel. This bit's getting a lot of snorting out of me tonight.
I want someone who knows this person to hit them. I don't care with what. Maybe don't commit a felony by hitting them with a car. But if you've got an empty box or one of those wiffle bats lying around, you just haul off and smash this person in the face. I mean, not face. Back of the head. Like, how do you arrive at that conclusion? How do you think that's a good thing?
Oh, my God. So this person more submitted a resume than a review.
Oh, please.
Katie Stoltzel of The Young Folks. As much of a good time as Cruella is, it's still a shiny piece of IP from Disney.
A shiny piece of IP?
Yes, intellectual property.
Yeah, I know what IP means. I was just trying to make sure I heard you correctly.
Yep.
And how dare Disney exist? Don't you understand? The workers of the world must unite. Then I will be able to bask in my own crapulence while other people do all the work that they're already doing. But now it will be for the no, get bent, you ridiculous human being.
Speaking of ridiculous human beings, Kevin Carr from Fat Guy at the Movies, our new favorite reviewer.
This guy.
A fantastically beautiful piece and very interesting as well. Sir, you are... I know we often use the phrase, you're amused by dangling shiny keys. Robert has insulted me with that on occasion. And by occasion, I mean almost every one of these we do. But you, sir... you, sir, seem to be amused by the faintest of paint drying.
Yeah, Does anyone take that guy seriously? I mean, clearly Rotten Tomatoes does because they let him, they feature his writing, but God.
Emma Simmons of Radio Times. There are a few Joker-like moments.
Shut up!
I hate you. I hate you. I hate you.
There is nothing in this movie that is Joker-like except the barest superficiality of costuming designed to evoke a specific time, vaguely 30 to 40 years in the past. Shut up, you useless, pointless, sad sack of a person.
Joker.
You should be ashamed of yourself, and your parents should retroactively disown you.
A 2-hour commentary on mental illness and the breakdown of society. Cruella. She made pretty dresses and got revenge on a rich person. Yeah, I can see the similarities.
Cruella, 2 hours of nothing.
Anyway, there are a few Joker-like moments that threaten to take Cruella into more tortured territory.
One, she's a villain who
I
wants
can't even
to
get through
save
this.
puppies. She's supposed to be a villain. What the hell is wrong with these people?
Can't even get through the fucking review. Take 3.
Okay.
All right.
Here's our No. I figured it out, Mark. I figured it out.
What did you figure out, Robert Winfree?
I figured out the Joker-like qualities this movie has.
They both have makeup on?
It drives people nuts.
I'll tell you, on a different day in a different setting, this might have made me go to my car and sob, but for different reasons.
It did. I can't say I sobbed, but I...
What was the movie? Well, I'm thinking... All right, everyone mark their bingo cards. Remember that scene in, I think it's either season 4 of The Wire, where what's his face, the black cop who became the sergeant, the one who's usually opposite of, what was his name, like Ellis, something like that. He tries to adopt one of the kids, and it doesn't work out, and he's kind of partially responsible for having the foster's mom house burned, and so he just gets in his car and starts punching his steering wheel. Was that you?
No, I didn't punch my steering wheel, but that's because I had to come home and try to make sure that the pulled pork we were making for the Memorial Day barbecue went okay, and it kind of did, kind of didn't.
There are a few Joker-like moments that threaten to take Cruella into more tortured territory, but it ends up falling down firmly on the side of fun. Fine, I finally got through it all. Okay, moving on. Bill Newcott of the Saturday Evening Post, a movie that knows precisely when to pull the levers of familiarity and when to whirl off into some unexpected realms of dark whimsy.
There is no dark whimsy to be found here, sir.
Like I said, this movie is it's bland. It's forgettable.
It's not even, truly whimsical. There's some outlandish costuming. That's not the same thing.
This is a splat. This is a rotten review from our good friend Leonard Malton at leonardmalton.com. But I want to read it because I'm fascinated by what he writes here. Utterly fascinated. Parents should note the PG-13 rating on Cruella, which is earned through a series of nightmarish scenes involving death, abandonment, and revenge. After putting us through the ringer, Cruella leaves us with an inexcusable weak punchline and postscript.
Sir?
My brain hurts.
I don't know what's wrong with you that this affected you on any sort of level emotionally, but I would urge you to seek help.
Why is Leonard Malton running into the street like the preacher's wife from The Simpsons going, won't somebody think of the children?
That wasn't the preacher's wife, but okay.
Yeah.
No, wait, yeah, it was. Sorry.
Hey, man, fuck
Yes,
you. I knew who that character was.
I was thinking of a different Simpsons gag that also featured a character going, "No, stop, think of the children."
Gotcha.
Because there's an episode where Bart points a tank at the school, and Mrs. Krabappel, while smoking a cigarette, goes, "Oh no, think of the children." About
Gotcha.
like that.
James Vernier of Boston Herald, another one of our favorites of recent. A Dickensian Fantasia.
Or how is it that this moron decide?
Poor children. He saw poor children and went Dickensian and walked out of the movie.
Not every story about British orphans in London set 40 some odd years ago is Dickensian.
No kidding. Hell, for a while, they lived better than I did when I actually had an apartment and a job.
Hang on. There's more here. It didn't stop with Dickensian Fantasia.
Of course it didn't.
Which is the name of my new punk rock band, by the way.
No, it isn't.
A Dickensian Fantasia, a near musical with a soundtrack of 60s and 70s classics and a signature role for Emma Stone.
I will give you that Emma Stone comes out of this looking all right because, boy, does she lifts this thing like, I don't even have an appropriate metaphor. She is Atlas carrying the world that is this crap fest on her back.
She is the garbage truck, but carrying that dress.
Like she's, but no, this is not the. Again, orphan children in Europe, in England specifically, set vaguely in the past, must be Dickens. You've never read Dickens in your life, have you?
So this is yet another rotten review, but it made me do the dog, speaking of which, sort of the quizzical dog head tilt. Dan Liebarger of Arkansas Democrat Gazette.
I can't take you seriously if you write for that publication.
It's probably a good thing Cruella no longer wants garments PETA would hate, but it's too bad she's not more fun.
Oh, God. That's such a stupid line. But what do you expect from someone whose only publication, he could only get printed by the Arkansas Democrat? I can't insult this man any more than the fact that he works for that paper.
All right. We're going to end with this one. We're going to end with two. Okay, two. But this first one specifically for Alexis. You ready, Alexis? Don't tackle Alexis when she tries to speak, Robert. Let her have her moment. You only get one. Eh? Megan Basham of the Daily Wire. A sheer spectacle, overlaying a sly rebuke to modern feminist values. It pays off.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. She's not rebuking the man. She is not standing up for women's rights. She is not fighting to be a female fashionista against a bunch of male fashionistas.
In fairness to the point I think the author is trying to make, because it's such a weirdly constructed sentence. I think the point being made here is that Cruella is standing up to another woman who happens to embody ideals of like second wave feminism.
Yeah.
Which is still a ridiculous point to reach.
Yeah, I was like,
and is like the big, again, that is a big reach to try and make a point that the movie itself isn't even trying to make.
Yeah, if this movie is trying to deal in any way with feminism, it's doing so from 2 football fields away.
Yeah.
Okay. Mark, you brought me on one of the first reviews you ever brought me on was for a book called Ask Me About My Feminist Agenda. And you had me sit through and read it and asked me, so where is the feminist agenda? And I said, I honestly can't find any feminist agenda. I don't get why this book is called that. Years later, I look at a review like that, and I'm just going to say this. Just because your story is led by a female character does not make it a feminist story. Feminism does not mean double X chromosomes. Feminism does not mean that the main character is a woman. Feminism does not mean the main villain is a woman. Feminism actually has to do something. It has to fight for something. It has to stand up and fight for equality, demand change. This movie does not do that for the women demographic. There is nothing feminist about this movie. Please, people, stop confusing feminist and feminine. They are 2 totally different subgroups. You want to say the movie is feminine? It's very feminine. Of course, it's not feminist. Now, if you'll excuse me, there's a pot of soup here that's getting cold.
Well said. Bravo.
Yeah, that's a huge reach to try and make a point the movie itself isn't making in some desperate bid to appeal to a very niche listener base, a niche readership. That's not at all supported by the actual text of the movie, which itself is so shallowly written that I'm sure in the writing process they just went musical, like musical number goes here. Ugh.
2 more, and then I'm going to call it. Kathia Woods of Cup of Soul.
Please
You
don't.
want to have a cup of soul with your eggs and bacon? Cruella gets a punk rock glam infusion. Ugh. You don't know what any of those words mean.
No, No, this person doesn't.
Seriously, how many times do we have to bring up that just because you set the movie in the 1960s punk London does not automatically mean that it exudes the punk rock genre?
A genre is not people. A genre is not a setting. Just throwing it out there.
Okay, last one, because I want to see if Robert has sort of a stroke when he hears this. I want to see if, like, his face, as like Bill Cosby described his wife having a conniption where her face split and half of it slid off of its skull. I want to see if this one does that to you. You ready?
Right. Yeah.
Preston Barta of the Denton Record Chronicle. Its daringness to be character-driven and different.
No. Just no.
And its daringness to be character-driven and different in a Tim Burton Batman kind of way isn't so black and white. It's killer fun.
Sir, I defy you to find anything in a Tim Burton movie that has this aesthetic.
I'm pretty
You won't
sure.
find it.
I'm pretty sure this guy was basically just saying they use black and white a lot, like Tim Burton.
They use black and white and, hey, high fashion. That's all. Burton does weird stuff with shapes, right? No. You idiot.
Hey, Alexis, I have a riddle for you.
I'm all ears.
Susan something Polish on AWFJ Women on Film wants to know what's black and white and wittily wicked all over.
First of all, wasn't the something Polish line a joke from that one movie with Michael Keaton and Henry Winkler working in a mortuary?
It may have been, but I'm not going to try to pronounce this last name.
Okay, fair enough.
No. I want you to, Mark. Please.
Because you've heard so much for the past 2 hours, you need something to offset the pain.
And you trying to pronounce Polish names amuses me, yes.
All right, so let me spell it for you so that you know how badly I'm mispronouncing this. WLOSZCZYNA.
Okay.
Lozenja.
Okay. Seriously, though.
Thank you for that. I needed the laugh.
To our listeners out there, we need to come up with a phrase. We need an official term for a reviewer, whether they're, an official, reviewer that with a name you recognize, like Richard Roper, or there's somebody who just writes for a blog. We need a term for someone who writes a review and it's abundantly clear that they're trying to be clever and maybe a little comedic in hopes that their quote will end up on the movie poster or the DVD box. Because that's all that is.
We really do. There has to be some piece of marine life, unlike the marine life food chain, that will appropriately describe this phenomenon. I don't know what it would be, but it's got to be there somewhere.
And that, folks, brings us to our end of our review here for Cruella. Tomorrow,
Wait. What are the birds? Hang on, no. Seriously, what are the birds that, like crocodiles don't care, stand and eat stuff off of their back? Or eat the stuff out from between their teeth?
Yeah, they're kind of like tick birds. That's the name of the ones that sit on the rhinoceros.
Okay, these people are tick birds.
Okay. Can I please end the podcast now?
Yes.
Tomorrow, I will not be a part of this because it's my birthday and I don't want to spend it talking about A Quiet Place 2.
Happy
So, Robert,
birthday.
thank you. I'm 45 years young, finally.
It's
Robert
all downhill.
Yeah. Robert Winfree, Alexis Hejna, and Jason Teasley will at some point in the evening review A Quiet Place 2. Meanwhile, myself
hang on. I have to ask very briefly. Alexis, have you seen A Quiet Place Part 2 yet?
Not yet. I was going to do a double feature today with Cruella, but my husband actually wants to see A Quiet Place 2, so we're going to catch like a 5 o'clock showing tomorrow, and then I am literally going to book it back to the house so I can do the review with you. Actually, if all else fails, do you mind if I'm running a little behind, you mind if I text you guys and see if we can delay for half an hour or something?
Yeah. I think Jason and I are both pretty loose about the timing on that. So yeah, I can't make my joke then, but there's a very specific part of the movie that I feel like you'll get the joke when I make it after you see it, I think.
So they'll be doing A Quiet Place 2. Meanwhile, on the other side of life, myself and Jesse Starcher are going to kick back and check out some Bongzilla, Wisconsin on the Metal Hammer of Doom, after I go see the dentist to make sure that my tongue hasn't got cancer, and then I go have a steak dinner for my birthday. Because what's better on your birthday than steak and fill in the blanks?
Steak and being free.
What was that?
Steak and being cancer-free.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how that phrase goes. Steak and being cancer-free.
Here's the better question.
Yes, sir.
Would you trade being cancer-free for the other half of that sentiment most of the time?
Any day. No.
I'll take the steak.
Would you like some cake or death?
People who don't know what the other thing is, and I'm trying to not be sexually crass, are like, what the fuck are they talking about? Some people get it. Some people know what steak and blank is. And some people are like, what the fuck are they talking about?
If you don't know, ask your parents.
That's right. Well, especially if you're a young child listening to this, and what young child is listening to us rail against Cruella? But if you're, if you're like a junior high school kid and you somehow stumbled upon this mess, please run into the room and go, what does steak and blank mean? And see how fast your parents punish you. On the 3rd of June, myself and Chris Bailey will review AEW Double or Nothing. And then after my wife and I get done watching how Grizzly Smith messed up his family.
How did this potentially violent pedophile impact the lives of people around him?
And I wiped the tears from my eyes. I will shake it off and do a review with Sean Comer of the 1996 Glenn Close 101 Dalmatians live-action movie. He is prosecuting, I am defending. So that'll be fun. We have a re-airing.
Fairly easy job for that one.
We have a re-airing of our Expendables 3 this Friday on our Flashback Friday episode. Jesse's got some bullshit syndicated source material about Colonel Jim Sanders. I have no idea what that is or what it's supposed to be, but it's Jesse. You should listen to it. Sunday is the second part of Robert Everybody Loves a Bad Guy Disney Villains re-airing.
No one cares.
And in the evening time, and I'm really surprised you offered to do this, but Robert and I will be doing a commentary for Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul.
Mark, I'm building up a reservoir of goodwill.
In case I need to donate I'm filled with fucking radiation and cancer. You don't want it in my organs.
I don't know how this is...
Who doesn't want to watch Logan Paul get the ever-loving shit beat out of him? Even I want to watch that.
I don't know how I'm going to cash in this goodwill, but it's going to happen at some point. And if nothing else, when I drop off the face of the earth with a giant, with some vague message on Facebook, and then I'm just gone, you will be able to remember all the good times and the things I did for you, rather than the giant cavern of content that I'm leaving behind.
Speaking of giant caverns of content, you can also check out me and Alexis reviewing Mickey's Inferno on Source Material Live. And prior to that, we had the first part of Robert's Everybody Loves a Bad Guy Disney Villains. Next week, we've got reviews of Lucifer Season 5B, MODOK Head Games. We're threatening to review Samaritan if we can find it somewhere.
Well, we'll have to... We're playing that one by ear.
Yeah, we're calling that one in the ring. Alexis and I will review MODOK on Hulu. Speaking of Alexis and I, Loki debuts June 9th, the first episode on Disney Plus, and coinciding with that will be our review of Loki, the God Who Fell to Earth. And in the evening time, Jesse Starcher will be on a much-needed vacation. But speaking of The Simpsons, Robert Winfree will be on the Metal Hammer of Doom, and we're going to talk Dr. Colossus. I'll make sure I get this right now.
Go ahead. It's a very famous line that it's the Simpsons taking the piss out of their own long-running gag about Bart prank calling Moe during a Treehouse of Horror event where they're riffing off of the Twilight Zone episode, where Bart is the boy who can is the monster of the village who can make people disappear. He controls the world.
That's the name of this short. That's the name of the episode. It's a Good Life.
Yeah.
Dr. Colossus. I'm a stupid moron with an ugly face and a big butt, and my butt smells, and I like to kiss my own butt. Yes, sir. And then, if you haven't gotten enough, Alexis, you're going to get a little more. Her and Sean Comer are going to be joining me on a comic strip for The Judas Contract. We will watch the movie. We will read the book. We will laugh. We will cry. We will hurl. Speaking of hurling, Alexis Hejna, I hear you have some things to plug.
Yes, right now I have a corgi in my lap who was starting to growl because he didn't like that the other dog was trying to get his attention. So let me plug by getting them off my lap. Okay. Yes. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. We just wrapped up our Memorial Day sale, and a big thanks to everyone who participated because we also did a charity drive. We are going to be making a donation based off of that drive to Veteran Community Fund benefiting tiny homes for homeless veterans. Really happy about how that came out. In the meantime, we'll be adding some more items to the shop very soon, including a full restock on our Pride flag necklaces just in time for, well, it is June 1st. It is the start of Pride Month. As always, you can find us on our Etsy and Handmade and Amazon shops, and you can always find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. That's Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
Anything about Trip Trivia?
Sorry, I had to take a breath there. Yes, and also, in addition to the multitude of things that I have to do for this network, because I at this point have pretty much sold my soul to Mark.
And you get nothing for it. That's the crazy thing. You get nothing from the selling of your soul to him.
Oh, I'm well aware of that. I've made peace. But anyways, Jesse Starcher and I will be hosting our next round of Tripped Up Trivia on June 19th. The theme is female superheroes. We got a couple of contestants lined up, but we're still hoping to get a few more on there. If you would be interested in being a contestant for Tripped Up Trivia, go ahead and hit us up on our Facebook or our Twitter feed.
Robert Winfree, you sometimes cover wrestling and then want to walk into traffic. You should tell people about it.
You're not kidding. This last Monday, I covered both WWE Monday Night Raw and AEW's Dark Elevation. Raw being saved entirely by the main event between Drew McIntyre and Kofi Kingston. It was a pretty good match. Dark Elevation continuing to be what Dark Elevation is, I suppose. Let's see. Wednesday, Damn You Hollywood, Quiet Place Part 2, or subtitled John Krasinski's bid to direct the Last of Us movie. Let's see. Wednesday we'll also be reviewing whatever MLW re-airs at that point. I'm pretty sure it's still just old episodes of Underground. Friday, WWE SmackDown. All of my wrestling reviews can be found in the Wrestling Zone of 411 Mania. Saturday, there is a UFC card. It's not a good card, but it's going to happen. So I will be covering that in the MMA Zone of 411 Mania. I host the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast. This last week is a very short episode. It's less than an hour, I think. That is a preview of that card and talking about a little bit about news of the week. Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez was announced. John Jones gets some new representation in the combat sports world. And I think there was one other thing, but in fairly typical fashion for that show, 24 to 48 hours later, something interesting breaks. In this case, hey, Logan Paul is going to box Tyron Woodley. And Mark will watch gleefully without pants until he remembers Tyron Woodley is one of the least interesting fighters on the planet.
It was Jake Paul, by the way.
That's what I said.
No, you said Logan Paul.
No, I said Jake, because Logan's the one fighting Floyd. Jake's the one who's going to fight
You
Tyron.
said Logan twice. It's Jake Paul. Just go.
I know the difference between them. Jake actually takes fighting a little bit seriously. Logan does it more for the publicity.
Say, Mark, you actually said Logan Paul earlier, too.
No, he's talking about the Floyd Mayweather fight. That is Logan Paul. His brother, Jake, is going to fight Tyron Woodley in a boxing match at some point in the future. August, I think?
August 28th.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Fighting Paul brothers, everybody.
And Robert says, I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
More often than you might realize.
And that, folks...
I don't actually want... There's this weird space for mental health, I think, Mark. You might be able to identify this for me. There's a in between wanting to be alive and wanting to die. There's this space where you just kind of don't want to be alive anymore, but you don't actively want to die.
Yeah, I have to stop the nurses from putting those people on suicide watch. And that, folks, is our review of Cruella. For Alexis Hejna and Robert Winfree, I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.